Hey everyone, my name is Wes, and welcome back to Terror Talk, where I discuss creepy clips online. Just to set up clear expectations, this is a commentary channel on scary stories and weird stuff. So, if commentaries are a thing, you're in the right place. The original horror music at the end of my videos was composed by me. Now, let's get into it and have some fun.
There was a pretty big thunderstorm going on this night. Nothing dangerous or anything, but enough to keep everyone inside for the rest of the day. I'm one of those people that enjoy rainy nights, or even storms. Something about it just makes me feel cozy and relaxed. Whenever there was a night like this, I'd always spend the night on the couch watching TV and listening to the rain. Luckily, I didn't have work the next day. And although it was already 8 p.m., I decided to make a hot cup of coffee and stay up as late as I could to enjoy the cozy night. I sat down and turned on a movie. It was only 20 minutes into the movie when my phone started ringing. I picked it up and looked at the number, but didn't recognize it.
How do you feel about thunderstorms? Let me know in the comments below. Because, for me, I really do like thunderstorms. I think they're peaceful and relaxing. But has anything ever creepy happened during a thunderstorm? Let me know if it has, because I think thunderstorms can be also very creepy, and creepy things can definitely happen during them. But if you have any experiences like that, definitely let me know in the comments because I really enjoy hearing people's creepy experiences.
However, the area code was from this city. I answered just in case, always worried it might be something important, or someone I knew, but just didn't have their number saved. No one said anything. Still, no one spoke. Oddly, I could tell it wasn't a dead line though. Like, I could hear background noise. It was messy, and after thinking about it for a couple seconds, it kind of sounded like the storm or rain outside. So I knew someone was there, but they just weren't talking. Feeling weird, I hung up. I couldn't really think of any reason someone would call and say nothing. I figured it had to be a mistake or a scam of some kind, even though it wasn't the typical robot voice or whatever. I tossed my phone back on the end table and continued watching TV. I got pretty well into the movie, probably an hour through, when in just a matter of seconds, the storm outside got increasingly louder, like it really picked up. Thunder, lightning, and heavy rain. Then the TV and lights flickered. They quickly turned off, then right back on in a split second. I paused the movie and looked around, not sure what was happening. Then, not even 30 seconds later, the power went out. Suddenly, the entire house was silent, and the storm was twice as loud. Rain was flooding onto the roof and against the windows, and there was heavy, nonstop thunder for what felt like 5 whole minutes. The only light I had was a small candle that I basically never used. Obviously, I had my phone too, but I didn't want to waste its battery, especially since I didn't know how long this would last for. I lit the candle, then figured I'd just double check the breaker box downstairs. I went down and saw the switch was loose. I flipped it back and forth, but it was completely dead. I went back upstairs and really had nothing to do but watch the storm out the window. I also noticed all the other houses down the entire street were dark as well, so it looked like it was a pretty bad power outage. My phone was running off of 5G data, so I checked if there was any information on the status.
One of my least favorite things ever is a power outage because I don't know, I need my technology. That's the kind of person I am, that if I don't have my technology, I start to go insane. What about you? But has anything ever creepy happened to you during a power outage? And that is pretty weird about the phone call, huh? Like, getting a phone call like that and having no one be there, that would be a little spooky. I mean, nothing like too crazy, but I feel like it would have been crazier if it kept happening again and again. Then I feel like it would be kind of like right out of the Goosebump series. You remember that series, the Goosebump books? I used to absolutely love the Goosebump books when I was little. I would read those things all the time. And even they turned them into TV episodes. Like those were kind of fun too, if you've ever watched them. And they actually have like a new series out with the Goosebumps. It's pretty good. But yeah, it kind of sounds like right out of a Goosebump book kind of thing, huh?
But there was nothing. I was probably standing there by the window for about 15 minutes, watching and listening to the storm, when, completely out of nowhere, I heard something from outside the house. I immediately recognized the sound. It was the gate to my backyard swinging open. That gate didn't have any sort of lock on it, but it never just swings open like that. Really, not having any ideas what it could have been, I walked to the back of the house and looked out the back door. Even through the darkness and the storm and everything, I could see the shadow of a man. They had clearly just come from the side the gate was on, but he was just standing in the rain in the middle of the backyard. Because I could really only see his outline, he just looked like a dark figure. I couldn't tell where he was looking. Like, was he looking toward the house at me, or was he facing away from the house? I didn't know what he was doing out there, but it gave me a bad feeling. I know I could have opened the door and yelled at him to leave my property, but I felt kind of nervous. I mean, if he was crazy enough to just be walking around outside in the middle of a massive storm like this, it wouldn't be far off to assume that he had a gun or something. I thought it was best to not confront them, so I just stayed by the door and watched him. They didn't move for an entire minute until his arm slowly lifted up from his pocket and he put his hand by his head. I didn't know what he was doing, but I could see a small glowing light in his hand. And just when I realized what it was, my phone began ringing in the other room. It didn't take me all but 2 seconds to understand what was going on. This random guy outside my house was calling me. That's why I could hear the rain on the other end of the phone earlier when
Yeah, I think that if someone were outside my house and I saw them actually calling and then my phone rang, I would be about ready to shit myself. Like, I'm not even kidding. That would be so terrifying. Wouldn't it? Just like some creepy stranger outside your house in the middle of a thunderstorm calling you. That would be pretty wild. Wouldn't it? What would you do in that situation? Let me know in the comments what you would do, because I think at this point I would definitely call the cops, because like that's just not normal behavior. Like, it's one thing if they're just standing out there in your yard, but then they know your number. Like, how is it that they know your number? Like, that would just be an absolutely terrifying situation to find yourself in, I think.
and he wasn't saying anything. But that was an hour ago. Had he been out in the storm, standing outside my home the whole time? Freaking out, I hurried into the living room and grabbed my phone, confirming it was the same number. Then, without answering it, I went back to the door. The man was gone. This freaked me out. Why didn't I just stay by the door and keep an eye on him? I felt stupid. I didn't like standing by the door, though, knowing he might be somewhere out there watching me, while I couldn't see him. I went back to the living room. I thought about calling the cops, but I really didn't know what to say. Like, someone called me twice and was outside my home, but I had no proof it was the same person, or that they were doing anything wrong aside from being in my backyard. Not too long later, my phone rang again. It made me jump, even though I was half expecting it. That's how freaked out I was. I declined the call. Only seconds later, a loud knock came from the front door. They called again, while continuing to knock on the door. These were heavy hits, too, shaking the walls of the house. I turned my phone on silent, and embarrassingly, I kind of froze up and did nothing. I know how dumb that sounds, but I've never been in a situation like that before. When you add in the storm and the power outage, it just made it all worse. I think it took 30 seconds, and for them to begin hitting the door even more aggressively before I finally snapped out of it and called the police. My hands were shaking as I held the phone. They said an officer was heading over right away, and they were about 4 minutes from me. I continued to inform them of what I knew, and the man didn't let off hitting the door. This went on for the entire time that I was waiting for the cop to arrive. Finally, the operator said that they were on my street. A few moments later, I heard someone yelling. I hurried up to the window and just caught sight of the officer chasing him. They ran off into the storm, and I couldn't see anything after that. I think I waited 2 minutes before the officer came back empty-handed. The guy was able to get away. I was actually impressed by how much the police department tried to help me, though. They did a pretty thorough investigation and seemed to take it seriously, probably because they actually saw and chased the guy. But the only real lead was the phone number, and it ended up being a dead end. I tried coming up with anyone who would be out to get me like this, but I had no idea. The case kind of died out, and since then, I've never gotten any calls from that number or seen anything else.
Yeah, I think that this was probably just some sick person playing a prank. I mean, you can easily get people's numbers anywhere online these days. I don't think it's that hard to do if you know where to go and what to do. I've personally never done that before because I don't care to do anything like that. But it feels like it was just some sicko like targeting a random house, or maybe, I don't know, what do you think? Do you think that the guy knew him? Because it does seem a little bit personally targeted. But then again, I could be wrong. Maybe it is just some sicko and he likes to go around doing stuff like this to people. But either way, it definitely sounds like something right out of the Goosebumps book, huh? Like, I used to love those things when I was little. And I don't know, this just kind of reminds me of a story that R.L. Stine would make. But yeah, I definitely thought that this was a creepy story. And I hope you enjoyed my commentary and the music, and I will see you in the next video.